Have you ever read a story from the Bible and thought, wow, that escalated quickly? In 2 Kings, a group of young men are making fun of Elisha's bald head, and 2 bears come out of the woods and maul him. We have fiery serpents showing up because the Israelites complained about their food. Then there's a story in Acts chapter 5 that looks like it was lifted straight out of the Old Testament. It began with an offering, a really big offering, and ends with 2 people lying on the cold floor, deceased. There were no swords involved, no stones, just a lie. In the early days of the church, in walks a guy named Joseph, and the people loved him. How could you not love Joseph? He walked in a room and immediately your day got better. In fact, he made such an impression they changed his name from Joseph to Barnabas, which means son of encouragement. Let's just pause and appreciate how awesome that name is. And guess what old son of encouragement does? He sells a piece of land and gives every bit of it, lays it down at the apostles' feet. No big ceremony, no fanfare, no fellowship hall with his name on it. He just responded to what the Spirit of God motivated him to do. Quiet, simple, generous. Such a Barnabas thing to do. It was contagious because the early church, they were giving like crazy.
You won't believe what just happened. Barnabas sold all his land and gave every denarius to support the church.
Let's pause and appreciate the magnitude of this moment. This wasn't an ordinary offering. This was life altering. And people recognized it. Barnabas was the golden boy for what living out this new faith looked like. Acts 4 ends with an offering. Then, record scratch. Luke, the master storyteller that he is, he pivots on us. But there was a man named Ananias and his wife Sapphira also sold some land. We don't know a whole lot about these 2, but they were part of this community. They saw what Barnabas did. They most likely heard the accolades that he was receiving. We don't know their true motivation, but I do know that it was really hard to sell land if you were an Israelite. It would have suggested financial ruin. It would have suggested disaster. It would have suggested that they did it out of desperation. And that was the type of thing back then that would get you canceled. Now, when Luke introduces us to Barnabas, he says that he is a Levite from Cyprus. Those 2 details are important. First, Barnabas was a Levite. In Numbers chapter 26, when the land is being distributed among the different tribes, the Levites aren't given any. They are to be the ministers in the temple. They're going to be supported by the tithes of the other tribes. And as far as inheritance goes, the Lord was their inheritance. Luke also gives us another fact. Barnabas is from Cyprus. Cyprus was about 250 miles as the crow flies from Jerusalem. If you lived in Cyprus, you couldn't really minister in the temple daily. You couldn't be supported by the tithes of the temple. And Levites whose families had been exiled from Jerusalem, who found themselves far away from the temple, many of them worked jobs and even owned land. We see that Jeremiah himself buys a piece of land. Barnabas, although his heart was connected to the temple, he didn't have an ancestral plot there. So the land that he had was not inheritance, it was an asset. Selling his land would not have been shameful, it would have been liquidated. For Ananias and Sapphira, it was totally different. For them to sell land would have been a shameful thing. But Barnabas unintentionally gave them a loophole. We don't really know Ananias and Sapphira's situation. If they needed money, they wanted money, they could sell, but it's shameful to do so. They say, work for him, and if we give it to the church, we're really not going to be judged. That'll actually be seen as noble. Somehow or another, whether it was their original idea or if it was one of those things that festers, Ananias and Sapphira have a conversation.
This is the only way.
Are you sure? It feels wrong.
It's a win-win.
It helps the church. It helps us. How could what we're doing be bad? Ananias walks out the door with his head held high. He walks into that meeting room and he sees the apostles.
We have good news. We sold some land just like Barnabas, and here is every bit we got for it.
Something tells Peter not everything's right. So Peter confronts Ananias.
Why did you let Satan fill your heart? You have lied to the Holy Spirit and kept part of it for yourself.
He could swallow his pride. He could be honest. Yes, it'll be hard at first, but it'll save him. Or he could double down. He chooses the latter. Then the color leaves his face, his eyes roll back, and he drops to the ground, deceased. The room had to be full of shock. I bet you couldn't have heard a clay pot drop in that place. Now, while all this is going on, we have Sapphira waiting for him. Have you ever had to wait for someone? Waiting for that text, waiting for that call? I bet that first hour, she was excited, thinking about how everyone was talking. Oh, they sure are some good members. We're blessed to have them. We better make sure we keep them. We can't lose people like that. Hour 2 comes along. Now she's starting to pace the floor. Well, he should have been back by now. And she thinks to herself, why should he get to have all the fun? I'll go too, just so I can hear the praise reports. She walks into a solemn crowd, people looking at her, some looking at the ground. And then Peter approaches her. Sapphira, tell me, is this the full price that you received when you sold the land? Sapphira has a choice to make. She could repent. She could be honest. She could say, I don't know what we were thinking. It's not. We messed up. I'm so embarrassed. What do we need to do now? She would have been restored, but she could double down just like her husband did. She chooses the latter. Yes. The door opens and a group of young men walk in. Those are the men who buried your husband. I imagine she was shocked. Buried my what? Then she looks at them, looks toward the ground, and she sees dirt falling off of their sandals, grave dirt. And then life leaves her body. She falls to the ground. I asked the question earlier, have you ever read a story in the Bible and thought, that escalated quickly? This one definitely did. One moment, celebrating a huge offering. The next moment, burying 2 church members. It's a heavy story, but it's heavy for a reason. God was building his church. He wasn't building a stage for performance. He wasn't building a place to show off. He wasn't building a place for us to manipulate for our selfish purposes. He was building a home for real people. Let me tell you a quick story. A while back, I ran out of gas. Our van tells me how many miles we have to go before I'm on empty. My truck is old school. It has full at the top, empty at the bottom. And if it's getting close to empty, find a station quick. One moment I'm driving, pretty soon I'm sputtering. But before you know it, I'm walking. I know I didn't have the indicator that tells me how many miles I have to go before I'm on empty, but I do have a gauge. And every mile that I drove, that gauge was going from full to empty. It was screaming at me. It was warning me. I just ignored it. I just wasn't paying attention. I wonder how many roadblocks Ananias and Sapphira faced before that tragic moment. First was the initial thought. We could keep back some of this for ourselves. They had the moment right there. Take every thought captive, push it out. But they ignored the warning sign. Second was the talk between them. One of them could have said at any time, this doesn't feel right. Are you sure we should do this? But they didn't. They held on to the plan. Third, we have the example of Barnabas. When he gave, it was joyous. It was pure. It was for God, not for himself. That should have inspired them. Instead, it made them jealous and motivated them toward greed. Fourth, we have their walk to the meeting. Every step was an opportunity to turn back. Every breath was a moment they could have chose life. Fifth was Peter's question. Did you keep back part of the price for yourself? That wasn't a trap. It wasn't a gotcha moment. It was a lifeline. One more chance to tell the truth, and they both lied. Sapphira had 3 full hours. That's time to think, time to pray, time to turn around. And then Peter gives her the clearest shot yet. Tell me, was this the full price of the land? This story gives us 2 choices, 2 ways. You have the Ananias way, the counterfeit way, based on performance, based on what others think. Or you have the Barnabas way. It's based on joy. It's based on freedom. It's based on mercy and grace. Ananias and Sapphira didn't want to be shamed. And this is not a new strategy from the enemy. All the way back to Genesis chapter 3, when Adam and Eve sinned, they hid because they were shamed. They tried to cover themselves with fig leaves, and it was insufficient. The good news is, when Jesus came, he didn't hide from shame. He faced it head on. Every secret we've ever kept, every lie we've ever told, every impure thought that we've ever had, he faced it and defeated it. So when we surrender to him, we leave shame at the foot of the cross. It's so easy to do the same thing, to hide behind the bushes of being busy, to hide behind the bushes of performance, to hide behind the bushes of success or even religious activities. Anything that replaces our desperation and our cry for God becomes a counterfeit for the true, authentic life, that abundant life that Jesus wants to give us. Ananias and Sapphira's story ends with grave dirt, the final price for the deception they held on to. But Jesus took our grave dirt, our shame, every single bit of it, walked it into a tomb, and on the 3rd day, walked out and left it there. God's not looking for people that's never messed up. He's looking for people that when they hear the warning, they respond and run back to him. When they feel that gentle nudge, they stop and say, Lord, what are you trying to tell me? So I challenge you. I'm challenging myself. Let's be the people that take the offering. Let's be the church that listens. Quickly, humbly, honestly. Let's choose the Barnabas way and leave the grave dirt behind. Hey, I appreciate you watching. I hope this ministered to you. I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell me what you're thinking. Let's have some discussion. God bless you.